Welcome to Escape the Noise, a podcast about hiking, mental health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Joe Vogel. We're coming to you from the Silicon Slopes studio in downtown Provo, Utah. Our guest this week, Kate Lewis, co-owner of Boardco and other business ventures in fitness and outdoors enthusiast. Kate grew up in Lebanon, Oregon. She moved to Utah when she was 12 and fell in love with the mountains. Whether hiking, working out, bootstrapping a business, or just about anything else in life, Kate is driven by a unique combination of determination and appreciation. Why don't we just start just to kind of get warmed up about how we met as fellow small business owners here in Utah, just, trying to, scrap it out in the early phases. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Scrapping it out is a good way to put it. I remember, so my husband and I, we own a wood business, a wood making business. And I remember, so we bootstrap. So we started like in canopies and various canopies because they all blew away in the storms, no matter how much we anchored it down. And we eventually were able to move our shop onto the side of my parents' house into a shipping container, which housed all of our equipment. But we ourselves were working outside in the driveway. And it was super cold through all elements, both with the snow and the sun. So anyway, we were out there working, and Joe had reached out to me a few days before we actually met, and he was like, "Hey, I'm a fellow, business owner here in Utah. I would love to come talk to you guys, meet you guys a little bit about business." So that's how we met. He came over to our shipping container, and we were all just bundled up outside. I remember rain like dripping onto our heads from the rain gutters. But yeah, from there, we just started it off. I don't know. That's how I feel. We started it off really well.
I think too, that day I brought some flyers that you were featured in, right?
Yes.
So we probably, I think going back even a bit further than that, you had seen one of our ads probably or something and responded. And then I was like, "Hey, if you want to try some on and take some pictures for us," right?
Yep.
And so some of our first flyers, like as a business, you were featured in.
Yes.
And then, eventually we got the husband on board too, right?
Yep. He was a good fit too, I guess.
So yeah, no, you guys have been fantastic and appear in a lot of our promo materials and
love
our
it.
ads and everything. So we love that. And your business is called?
It's Boardco.
Okay.
Bordco.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen some of your guys' work and it's amazing. So can you kind of just talk about, even from that point, right, when I met you at your parents' house and you were, again, kind of bootstrapping it to where you are. Where are you now with the business?
Well, we're still in the bootstrapping mode, but we are definitely progressing and it's awesome. So we are now in an official shop. We've been in there for just over a year and we're already running out of space. Like we are working and putting things where they shouldn't or can't be, but we just have to. So it's a really good sign of growing pains. And we have so many goals for Boardco. So it's going really, really well. We love it.
And who are your, what kind of jobs do you do or who are your customers?
Kind of depends on the product. Our number one seller is a custom lap desk. And so a lot of our customers, they're willing to pay for something because it's a little more expensive to pay for something that is high quality, beautiful, yet very functional.
Yeah.
And so those kind of, I guess that sums up our customer for now.
Yeah.
We also do some custom furniture. So again, that's very high quality, functional, beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, and then maybe let's talk a little bit about your background. You're not from Utah originally?
Not originally. I was actually born in Oregon and then moved here right when I was about 12 years old. So a little bit of half and half.
Yeah.
I claim both, I guess.
Well, Oregon's a beautiful state too.
Yes.
So did your, love for the outdoors start there or?
Definitely. Yeah, I would definitely say so. Oregon, like you said, is a gorgeous place.
Yeah.
So my childhood, a lot of it was spent on what you might call a hike. I can't say I was really much of a hiker back then, but I do remember going on family outings to various waterfalls and creeks and lakes. And then also we spent a lot of time on the coast going up and down the rocks and stuff. And so Oregon's just a gorgeous place. Yeah. And I really did fall in love with the outdoors there.
I do feel like it's a recurring theme that when you're young, like it's almost like you're dragged.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of young people don't love hiking as much as they do later in life.
Definitely.
Like even when I think about my first times like hiking Timpanogos, it's kind of like, it's like
okay. Timpanogos is really hard.
Yeah, it's a hard hike, and you're young, and you're like, so you actually have the energy, but you're just maybe not the will.
Yeah, exactly. The will definitely is the difference.
So, okay, so you move to Utah when you're 12, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, and so tell me about that. You come to Utah. What's it like? What's the experience?
Yeah, I mean, being 12, 13 years old, I kind of, had a naturally poor attitude about moving to Utah. But that I got over really quickly. And honestly, it had a lot to do with the outdoors. I mean, living at the foot of Mount Timpanogos is unreal. Like a lot of people in the world can't even imagine that. It's just so gorgeous. So, and I would spend a lot of time up walking and hiking with family and friends. And I just came to really love the state, especially the diversity between the snowy mountains and then the southern Utah red rocks. So it was easy to fall in love with Utah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, I think, for me moving back here, you appreciate just like how much different types of things you can do, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, the different landscapes, the access to so many different trails and so many different mountains within like 20, 30 minutes, right? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of irresistible. Talk to me, though, about just kind of who Kate was when she was young, right? Like, you love the outdoors, obviously, but as you move here, I think, for people that move to Utah out of state, I came back here from California when I was in junior high, and it was difficult too, just kind of difficult adjustment. So talk to me about kind of who you are and how you began to kind of shape your worldview.
Yeah, for sure. So my mom actually jokes around about this a little bit. So I am actually the youngest of 5 siblings. And everyone, my 4 siblings are all about a year and a half apart. And then there's a gap of 5 years between my next sibling. And so my mom talks about how when I was born, everyone was super excited about it. And they really wanted to snuggle with me and hold me and stuff. And she says, I just refused to be held and snuggled. And that's just kind of part of who I am. I'm very much just more on the independent side, kind of leave me alone. I want to go do things.
Right.
So that's kind of just how I've been from the beginning. And with that, as soon as I was in preschool, my mom went back to school to get her degree in education. And so the travel, so I was at home with her.
Right.
And the travel between home and school was about 45 minutes. And during that drive, we didn't have iPads and TVs on the back of your seat to watch shows. All we could watch was outside. Yeah. And my mom really took the opportunity to teach me to pay attention to what was going on around me and to be observant about, the rain on the window, or we would drive past, we called it Trash Mountain, which is where they, was waste management basically, and watch that trash grow, or, look at that car, all the stuff we paid attention to. And I think that helped me a lot to be able to pay attention to the world around me and ask why and how things work and what that means to me. What kind of choices do I want to make for myself to be able to create the life that I want? And I'm really grateful for that.
That's a great gift.
Yes.
Right? Teaching you to be perceptive, observe what's going on around you. And I do think, to your point, as a parent, this is something that I tried to do with my kids, and it was a lot harder than it was for us when you didn't have all those distractions.
For sure.
but just like put the phones away, like actually know where you are, right? And like kind of look around. Because I actually have really fond memories of like when, as a family, we would take long road trips to California or something and just like looking out at the desert, right? And it was just fun.
Yeah,
you know?
you just let your mind go. You just kind of imagine various things going on. I think that's extremely important and healthy to do.
Yeah, I sometimes tell my kids, like, you have to let your mind be bored sometimes, right? Like, or at least like not need constant, diversion, right? Just some opportunity. Because that's when, to be honest, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this because you're a creative person. Like, that's when ideas come. Yeah. Right? Yep. One of the nice things about hiking too.
Yes. Which is probably one of the reasons why I love hiking so much. Because when I go out, I don't feel like, like you mentioned before, being dragged out into the mountains where you're like, oh, why am I here? You start asking questions and paying attention to the trees and the flowers and everything around you.
Yeah, it almost, I think, makes us like children again, right? In that you're very curious, right? And you're very kind of detached from a lot of adult concerns.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's a nice thing for a lot of people, is to kind of get into that state, which is great for creativity. And it's also probably just great for our mental health.
Absolutely. I think it's crucial. And I think probably, I would say, majority of the population doesn't have that. They don't take the time to do that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But it obviously has its adverse effects. And we need to take that opportunity to detach and escape the noise.
Yes. Yes. So let's go back to independent, fierce Kate. I've definitely picked up on that energy from you. I mean, I have to say, we follow you on Instagram, both your business account and your personal account. I have found it personally like extremely inspirational.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to tell you, I think I've told you that before, that I just appreciate, when you're going through this and you're taking risks and you're doing things that make you uncomfortable, it's nice to just talk to other people or hear from other people that are kind of going through it.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing I've just really admired about you is just how relentlessly positive you are, but not in a fake way, but in a way that acknowledges like it's hard. Right. But that's kind of the point.
Exactly.
Right. So maybe just talk about like how did you become that person where even though you're going through a lot of difficult things and there's a lot of struggles day to day, you are a strong person?
Well, thank you first. I really do appreciate that. I think it has two parts to it, which is kind of the nature versus nurture, which we always talk about. So like I mentioned before, the natural part of me was like that the moment I was born. I was just like, let's go. But then growing up, I tried everything. Like I played all the sports, I tried instruments, and I kind of just dabbled in everything. I'm also really creative. I like to draw. But I think all of that added up to this confidence that I can do anything. I might not be really expert at it, but I can do it and I can try it and give my best. And failure is 100% part of the process. In fact, that's where you find most of your growth. I'm really into weightlifting, and it's like I mentioned, the failure is when your muscles actually break down and grow the most. Yeah. And so the same goes with life. Like if you're not risking it, if you're not failing here and there, then you're just simply not doing it right. Like you have to do it that way. So I think all of that, the natural part of me plus the doing part has built me up into this really confident person that I know that I can do whatever I want. Yeah. And become whoever I want to be.
And that's powerful. And I honestly, I don't know that you can do things like you've done, right? Like with creating a business without that mentality, right? Because we were even talking about this before the show. No matter when you think you've arrived, there's yet another challenge or obstacle. And there's so many opportunities to quit.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
There's so many opportunities to just say, okay, I got to do something safer. I've got to do something, that's easier, right? Yeah. And unless you embrace that discomfort, like it is kind of this battle. But I think it seems to me that you have kind of mastered at least like this idea that I know it's going to be hard and I'm just going to embrace that.
Yes. And I think that comes down to like my why especially when it comes to business and succeeding in that, is it makes me sick to my stomach to think about working for someone else or like having to sit at a desk. Like I can't. I always say I would rather be the poorest person in the world and homeless before going and working for someone else. And that's not necessarily like a prideful thing. However, it is a pride thing, but it's more like that's how hard I'm willing to work to be able to do what I want to do and build the life that I want to live.
I feel like it's being true to who you are, right? Because not everybody's different, right? Like I've talked to people who like they like kind of,
and that's okay.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
We need people like that.
Yeah, they just, they want the stability they want, and then, they have other parts of their life where they get other things, right? Yeah. For me, I'm like you. I remember as a kid, like one of my prerequisites for a career was that I didn't have a boss.
It's a little hard to find.
Yeah,
but.
It was just like, I want to be, I want to do my own thing, right? And I think I'm kind of like you, where it's like, I would rather just be poor and be doing what I love. There's more fulfillment in that. I wanted to follow up though, just because I know a lot of, again, the way that you've developed this mentality is through physical things, right? And that's kind of a big emphasis at Timpanogos hiking is how important it is to do physical things, right? And so you talked about weightlifting, but can you just talk about like how that plays into your life and like how that's connected to like your mental health? And
for sure, I'm a huge advocate for physical activity, no matter what it is. Even walking in general is one of the best things people can do, and not a lot of people do it. So as far as like physical activity, I love to weightlift. I love to run. I love to hike, obviously. I love mountain biking. I love just being out and being active. And that helps me a lot. I mean, obviously it's been scientifically proven to help your mental health. But for me, like if I honestly don't remember the last time I've like missed a day of physical activity outside of like my rest days, like it's part of who I am. And it helps me so much by helping my mind just be at ease when my body, has all this tension and anxiety with everything going on in life, especially business. Being able to kind of get that energy out and do something that is also in return very beneficial for me. That helps my mind and body all kind of connect into one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the habit part of that is important, right? Where it just, this is what you do, right? And it would feel weird not to do it. It is. Right? And it is interesting that good habits are like bad habits in that, they're both hard to break, right?
You got to choose your hard.
Right. So, so I think that's kind of an important thing for, I think, anyone to hear is just, that once these things become just part of your day to day, your days are going to be better, right? Especially because the way modern society is structured, the way it kind of operates, like it lends itself to a sedentary existence.
Yes, it does.
Increasingly, right? Like you're sitting at a desk, you're looking at your phone, you're you're doing a lot of things that don't require movement, right? And so that's why, in a way, I think hiking or really any kind of physical activity now is almost like an act of defiance because you're going against
the norm.
The norm. You're going against like kind of what we're now expected to do, right?
Yep, it's true. I always try to encourage people to just walk. Like I said earlier, honestly, it does so much for the mind and body because, like you said, the lifestyle is so sedentary that even walking is like this massive task. It shouldn't be. If you think about like, before cars and other transportation, like people were walking everywhere. In other countries, they walk everywhere and they generally have a better mental health because of that.
Yeah, and you can't always, on a day-to-day basis, get out into beautiful locations, right? We are lucky here in Utah where we're like, 10,
Easy
15
access.
minutes away from a lot of mountains. But there's sometimes when people can't. In those cases, I agree. Like just getting out and walking, fresh air, sun, hearing sounds, just natural sounds. Like, yeah, that's all good for you. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kate. We'll continue the discussion in our next episode, including how Kate has dealt with health issues and why being out in nature tends to form deeper connections. Thanks again to Kate Lewis for joining us. You can find her on Instagram at @TheKateLewis. Escape the Noise is produced by Timpanogos Hiking Co. I'm your host, Joe Vogel. A big thank you to Kai Bradford, as always, for his assistance with scheduling and production, to the Wildfires for our intro music, and to Silicon Slopes and Weston Tanner for hosting us and helping us make it all happen. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you again next episode.